Hi, welcome back. We left off at Linnea Airey's phases of word recognition development, and she did extensive research on how students learn to read words. We'll begin with the first phase, which is the pre-alphabetic, where they read visual cues. And the word read is in quotation because they're not necessarily reading. They are memorizing their visual features or guessing words from their context. So an example would be seeing a stop sign and saying that says stop, or look, mom, stop. So it doesn't mean that they have learned to read the word stop, but that they are memorizing the visual features. And so this can also go a lot with logos that they see, things that are very familiar to them that they are memorizing. Moving on to the next phase would be partial alphabetic, where they know some sound spelling correspondence. And here a student at this stage might guess a whole word that based on the first and last letter. After that, we come to the full alphabetic, which is they know most common sound spellings. And here they have extensive knowledge of the alphabetic system. They recognize letter and sounds. They use their knowledge to read words. And while they read, they attend to each letter in the word. So unlike here, where they might attend to just the first and last, or just the last or the first, here they are attending to all letters in each word because they know that this will help them decode a word. On to the fourth, which is the consolidated alphabetic, where they chunks of letters within words, so they no longer have to rely on individual sound spellings. Oh, here they are looking for multi-letter patterns and chunks within words. So again, so think about here where they're attending to each letter in the word, but here they're looking for patterns and chunks within words. So here is the automatic phase, which is proficient word reading. So the goal of the phonics and word recognition is to move students through these phases and to where they are reading proficiently. At the automatic phase, a majority of words that the reader encounters during this phase will be part of their sight vocabulary or practiced sufficiently to be committed to memory. So here we have to use the term sight word loosely because the goal of reading, aside from comprehension, is to have a student or a child commit all words to sight vocabulary. So they read so extensively that a majority of words that they read in print, they are recognizing quickly and automatically. So while you are assessing your student, it would be valuable to think about what phase they are in. And you can earn some bonus points, not necessarily bonus points, but it would just be very valuable to look at some of the assessments that you're doing with your student and thinking, okay, where is the student in one of these phases? Are they in partial alphabetic? Are they in automatic phase? So if you can, please refer to this and indicate where your child would be in these phases. Okay, so going on to phonics, and these are regular words. So as noted before, regular words are generally words that follow a pattern. And they follow rules. So those of you who teach kinder and first grade, you probably have a good phonics system, hopefully in your adopted curriculum. And so when you are teaching phonics, you are teaching the rules and patterns of sounds and spellings. Okay, we kind of touched on this last week, but phonics is the relationship between letters, so graphemes, in written language and the individual sounds, phonemes, in spoken language. So phonemic awareness was purely just recognizing like the manipulation of phonemes without graphemes, but here they're making the connection that letters do make sounds in spoken language. So teaches how to use these relationships to read and spell words. The process of converting the written word to spoken word is called decoding. And instruction should be systematic and explicit. So systematic, which means it follows scope and sequence that allows your students to form and read words early on. And explicit means the sounds spelling should be directly taught. So many of the programs that they have in schools are systematic and explicit when teaching phonics. So phonics instruction is really just giving students a tool to learn how to read and to learn how to decode. All right, so some of the phonics assessments that you can give is the core phonics survey, which is required this upcoming week, the BPST, which is basic phonics skills test, phonic assessment, which you'll find in titanium, or you can do observation of phonics knowledge in context. So again, I highly recommend doing a running record with your student. If you are teaching in elementary school and you have a student that has reading difficulties, it would be very beneficial to assess their phonics knowledge and then maybe even assessing their phonemic awareness. Okay, so here are some instructions for the phonics survey that you are required to give. So instructions, there are instructions for each part of the assessments, and they're on the record form. You will need a copy of the student material pages and the record form. So you can focus the student's attention by covering up other parts of the test. And I really highly advise this because they can easily get distracted, or just seeing all those words can be visually overwhelming for the child. Be aware of students' behavior during testing. If they are tired or making errors, discontinue, or you can take a break depending on what's going on in your situation. If the student doesn't know 2 or more words in each line, don't give pseudo words and move on to the next. So here, this is very important, and I will be paying closely attention to when you submit your artifacts. So again, if a child doesn't know 2 or more words, don't give the pseudo words and just move on to the next section. And I will know that you did not give the pseudo words because of this reason. You do not need to make any notes. So here we're going to proceed to approaches to phonics instruction. The first approach would be synthetics phonics. Individual sounds, then blend. And this is probably the most, this approach is probably the most familiar to all of you. So you are giving the student a sound like the word b, like the sound b, and associating it with the letter B, and then building onto that so that you are giving them all these sounds and they are practicing those sounds with words and teaching them how to blend sounds into words. Then another approach would be the analogy phonics. So use a phonogram, which is the rhyme, to learn new words. And going back to onset and rhyme, rhyme is the last chunk of the word after the first letter. So for instance, let's see. Think of the word make, so let's focus on the ache, the A-K-E. So you would take that and you would develop like word family, like make, lake, rake, sake. So that would be another approach to teaching phonics. Here is the analytic approach. So you would introduce familiar words and then analyze it. So this is the opposite of synthetic. So what I mean by the opposite of synthetic, instead of giving the student sounds, you're actually going to give them the whole word and then draw their attention to a specific sound that you want them to focus on. So for example, if you gave them the word cloud, you might focus on the sound ow, like the OU makes the ow sound. Or you might give them the word mad and you may want your students to focus on the ah sound. So again, this would be the opposite of synthetic because you're giving them the word then and analyzing the word, as opposed to synthetic where you're giving them sounds to make words. And here is the embedded phonics, so within context of natural reading and writing. So you are teaching them through authentic reading experiences. So they might be reading a book and the student might have trouble reading a certain word, so you would attend to that word and that sound spelling pattern. So it's, again, this is embedded. So you're teaching phonics embedded in authentic reading and writing experiences. All right, so good phonics instruction. Develops understanding of alphabetic principle, incorporates phonemic awareness. So we just touched upon this last week where phonemic awareness is manipulation of sounds, provides sufficient practice in reading words, leads to automatic word recognition, is part of a comprehensive reading program. So when you're doing a reading program or you have adopted a reading material, definitely want to look at the components of it because you really want it to be a strong, comprehensive reading program that will help your students to read fluently and have strong comprehension skills. So again, we want to lead students to automatic word recognition. They definitely sufficient practice reading the words. So not only in isolation with blending practice, but also an opportunity to read them in context. So a bunch of wide reading and also reading decodables. So decodables are little books that focus on specific sounds that you're working on. So if you're working on the short vowel a decodable would have many words with that sound in it. Okay, so moving on to when to teach phonics. The greatest impact on beginning readers is in kinder and in first grade. Should start as soon as students learn sounds of a few letters. Should continue until students are able to decode multi-syllable words with automaticity and fluency. 2 years of phonics is typically sufficient. So notice the word typically. So if you are teaching second grade and you notice that many of your students are having difficulty with decoding words, and you're going to want to continue with that phonics instruction. So you definitely would want to give an assessment and then see where the needs are of your class, or maybe it's just a group of students. So again, typically is just a general statement, but again, typically is something that you need to be aware of, that oftentimes that there will be second graders that need more instruction in phonics. Students not proficient in phonics by the end of grade 1 continue to struggle in the future in other areas of reading. So think about your second grade teachers if you teach at an elementary school, and if they have students that are struggling with reading, maybe they should rethink about their phonics instruction. I was teaching at a school once where the second grade teachers did not teach any phonics to their students because they thought that phonics would only be in K and 1. But you really, really need to be aware of the needs of your students, and you have to understand how students get to be proficient. They desperately need that phonics instruction, and they need to be proficient in it.